Be humbler than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, and offer respect to others without expecting in return. Well, this was said by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by Lord Sri, I believe Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now we have this sort of thing, and we have this thing in like the current day, where people don't respect you, well even outright threaten your life, simply because you didn't use their pronouns, or simply because you didn't feel comfortable using the pronouns. Like, we have in this day and age that very problem. Now, one of the things that I find very alarming about some of the things that I've seen online from these people is how they think that because they can say these things online, because they can say these things online, that they are free from responsibility for with the kind of disrespect that they spout from their mouths. And it doesn't surprise me at all that they would hide behind an avatar on the internet, demand respect, but give disrespect when they're not at the same time. Like simply because people didn't feel comfortable with that. It wasn't within their right. I'd argue that even if someone shows you disrespect, you still show them respect. On the other hand, if someone threatens my life and they say that if I don't respect their pronouns, my pronouns are who, were, oh, yeah. There's this rule within this little religion that they hate called Christianity. It's a religion that they'll scream about all the time. I've been, for the most part, conflicted with Christianity, but I agree with this. They say that Jesus is weak, that the disciples of Jesus, the Christ, were weak because he said, "The meek shall inherit the earth." Well, what about his do unto others what you would like done unto you? That doesn't sound weak at all. That sounds like, yeah, if you threaten my life, I'm packing a 6-iron on me. That's pretty much what he's saying. And these cowardly assholes, asteroid orifices on the internet, think they can get away with this kind of crap. They think that because they hide behind a screen, they're protected from all sorts of judgment, including divine judgment. It's like you're not. Newsflash: people know what you said, that people know what you said, and that you're not immune to. You cannot demand respect and then show disrespect towards people. That's not how that works. That's how you make an enemy of people, and that's how you make an enemy of people. People hear you say all this stuff on the internet, and they're like, man, why should I respect trans people? Because trans people say this, trans people say that. See, that's what people are going to think. And even people like myself, who has been friends with trans people in the past, I know at least, I knew at least two, but I knew at least one that I really was absolutely sure wasn't a bad person as far as I could tell. And in fact, I felt like I had good relationship with them. So just hearing all this stuff, this vile rhetoric that has been spouted by people over the years, just doesn't surprise me at all that and I kind of wonder if trans people have been set up to do this sort of thing, even because what's the quickest and most sure way to destroy a group of people? Tell them to act like a bunch of asteroid orifices, and simple enough. And I believe it's these trans activists that are the real problem. Not trans people themselves. It's kind of like how feminism got co-opted by the CIA in order to divide and conquer. In order to push divide and conquer tactics. It's like kind of seeing all this political stuff and how it all just ties together. Kind of wonder if it's something similar to that, because it certainly seems like there is an intention to push divide and conquer in our country and get people to hate on a group, which I think we're just being intentionally played. It's like Russia. Remember that video game Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2? Remember the No Russian mission? Oh yeah, the good old No Russian mission. Totally not a CIA op. Totally not a CIA op. But it was based on a CIA op. Because that sounds much more like the No Russian mission sounds like a no CIA, a no American mission. Sounds like something our intelligence service would actually do. In some foreign country, and it's but that's a different discussion. This is funny, but back to what I was saying. It's kind of funny how a lot of these people talk about giving respect, about showing disrespect, about demanding respect, yet they don't give you, yet they disrespect, and that there are consequences And there are consequences for this. There's certain kinds of disrespect can even get you killed. You can get, you threaten someone's life. Remember what Charlie Kirk said about murder. If you murder a man, you deserve to have your life taken from you. Well, that's precisely, if you threaten a person's life, they have every right to take your life in self-defense, because, that's the law of natural order. That is not a political right. That is a right given through spirituality. That's spiritual. And our founding fathers said these rights were endowed onto us by our Creator. You can take that as however you want to interpret that, but at least they recognize that very true fact about that stuff. A lot of these people that talk about rights want the government to give them rights, but you should never trust in Nimrod to give you your rights. Your rights were given to you by God, and if you want, you already have your rights. You already have your right to freedom of speech, freedom of expression. But you also must temper that with respect of others. And that's the thing about all that. You can self-express, but your self-expression should not go further than basically getting people's faces and being a jerk. Like, I don't, being a jerk and telling them you must accept me for who I am. Well, what gives me any reason to respect you? You're calling me a fascist. You're calling me a Nazi. You're calling me a bigot. Why should I respect you? Like Charlie Kirk said about how murder demands your eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, which is literally what the Old Testament law is. You slander a man, it is akin to murder, and demands that you must die spiritually. That you must die as that this false ego, these pretensions of self must die. And a lot of these people are they're gonna have some rude awakenings at some point. They're gonna go stark raving mad. They're gonna go insane. They're gonna end up in insane asylums because they've lost themselves. They're gonna be driven batshit insane by what they did. And the beautiful part about all that is, what could have it could have been easily avoided if they had not have given that demon. If they had not have given that demon license to work through them. If you had just told him to get behind me, Satan. If you just said that and you did nothing, and you wouldn't have been in the situation that you're in now. But you didn't do that. So now you're in the mental asylum. You're now in the mental asylum screaming like a madman. All because of things that you did in your life that you shouldn't have did. You know, that's what I would say to these people who also slander. In fact, if God took your life, if Krishna took your life, it would actually be a mercy. Sounds like a terrible experience, but it would actually be a mercy unto you to lose your life in the hands of God. You know, it's like, and unfortunately, a lot of you aren't going to have that mercy. A lot of you are going to go through births and deaths, and you're going to probably end up in the lower planets and then the rocker realms for that behavior. And you're going to wonder why you even did that, why you even allowed that. And so before I continue to talk on the on this totally high quality audio video, I wanted to share some of some of the stuff that I was looking into while back in the late 2010s, when I was also getting into some of the trans stuff that I would later on talk about in the early 2020s on the channel. And you can see here some of this stuff in these screenshots is particularly the Shaivas, and especially some of the Upanishads and quotation from the Upanishads, more specifically the Mundaka Upanishad. And I thought it would be worth putting this in here for the video for your viewing. And also I was going into like Gnosticism. And by that point in time, I was rather big into Christian Gnosticism as well, and the Kybalion, Greek Hermeticism.
Yoga is a system in Hinduism. It is rooted in it. It cannot be separated from it. Even, and this has been studied, there are papers on this, there are books on this, that even the postures themselves have a connection to a deity in the Hindu pantheon, and in a way is a form of worship. So yes, it may be sold in the US as just a nice system of stretches and it's good for your health, but what they're not telling you is that even the postures, forget the mantras if you're doing mantras or chanting as part of your yoga practice, but the positions themselves are connected and inseparably connected from one of the deities in the Hindu pantheon. So you may not realize it, but when you are doing the stretches, you are having a connection to a foreign god. As we know from the Holy Scripture, all the gods of the Gentiles are devils. I'm sorry to say. But people oftentimes aren't ready to see that because no one teaches that when they get into it.
You know, everyone says that religion is like the ultimate money laundering scheme, but I have to ask, like, isn't politics like the greatest money laundering scheme? Like, look at all the free stuff that they promise us. That even when we give them all our money, we don't even see any of that free stuff, so-called free stuff that they claim to just give us. I used to proselytize like religion and especially politics back in the 2010s, back in like especially the early to mid 2010s. Man, these people. You know, material education can and has never given rise to spiritual development. So you're asking a bunch of woke atheists to educate your child on the finer things in life. It only leads to sense gratification, this material education. Especially in the case of like public education, where Nimrod of Babel has full reign of your child. You'd think that the tale of Nimrod and Semiramis of Babel would forming the first state religion would teach these people, these Christocons, Christian conservatives, woke right types, not to trust these Babylonians, more commonly called government, aren't to be trusted in matters of the Atman, soul, eternal Son, true self, a light unto the world we are supposed to be, of course. And, you know, need I remind you that when religion and state mingled together, plus government wanting world domination, you know that, as the book of Revelation says, the end has come. Like, you know, a lot of these Christians don't read their own book. But none of you listens to your own teachings. I don't think that. I do think, however, that Anglican Christianity, as well as the viewpoints on religion that our founding fathers had, need to be taught. Like the history that Anglican Christianity had on the formation of the United States of America is a very important thing. Of particular note, I think the viewpoints of George Washington are worth like discussing, because he's a pretty intriguing person with his use of words. You know, they most certainly don't talk about. They most certainly didn't talk like secular men, but neither did they talk like modern day Christians, our founding fathers. They were extremely nuanced. America was not strictly a Christian nation. You know, that the hand of Providence has willed with his blessing this separation of powers, religion, and state has has protection against the corrupting influence of entropy, is proof of divine providence that we must also protect freedom of speech, expression, defense, religion, and family from the forces of this age of degeneration and regression, more commonly known as the Kali Yuga. I think that friends should be allowed to discuss religion as well as politics in school without harassment from school staff during breaks in the day. That's part of learning what is as well as what is not appropriate to discuss with others. You will also learn more about religion from others that way, rather than the propaganda machine that is the public school system. I'd say read The Science of Self-Realization and bring that into class if they're gonna just push like 4 mandatory religious classes. Bring up many times that so-called disciples of Christ Jesus in modernity don't actually follow his teachings. I think that would be pretty. I think it'd be a little funny to watch them try to explain away. Oh no, this is funny. It's really, really funny because the whole Babylonian mystery religion thing, because that was a narrative hump that people used to use to against Roman Catholicism, and it's funny seeing it in this example being used against Eastern religion. When the Christians the Christian that probably made this meme probably hasn't really studied their religion. And you point out the Kalki thing. Oh, the Kalki thing will definitely get you. They'll definitely pull this mystery Babylon crap on you. Just like they'll scare little children with hell. Like at some point, narratives must stop working with people, because you see through the narrative and you see through all this stuff. Unfortunately, a lot of these Reddit tier atheists didn't use what they learned about religion to or what their lack of knowledge on religion to really teach themselves about not falling for like narrative humps in their circles and in their spaces.
This is one of the most ancient of Indian texts, the Natya Shastra, which contains as explicit and extreme a defense of freedom of expression as you will find anywhere in the world. In the Natya Shastra, we see the gods asking for theatre. The gods are a little bit bored in heaven, not that much to do. They decided they wanted entertainment, and so a play was made, and the play that was made was, as you perhaps know, was about the war between Indra and the Asharas, in which Indra, using his mighty weapons, defeats the demons. Well, when the play is performed to the gods, the demons are offended by their portrayal. The demons feel that this insults and offends them as demons. Their demonness is improperly criticized, and they attack the actors, whereupon Indra and Brahma come to the actor's defense, and gods are positioned at all 4 corners of the stage. And it is Indra who says that from now on, that stage will be a space where everything can be said and nothing can be stopped. So this is one of the most ancient of Indian texts, the Natya Shastra, which contains as explicit and extreme a defense of freedom of expression as you will find anywhere in the world. This is not alien to India. This is our culture, our history, and our tradition, which we are in danger of forgetting. And we should do well to remember it.
Which is where I would say, chant the holy name of Krishna. Chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Chant that. It'll definitely help you in it will definitely help you because you're gonna need all the help that you can get. I don't want to see anyone destroy themselves over like. I don't want to see people destroy themselves. I've been there down that path myself, and I honestly don't want to see that for other people. And in fact, the Lord will destroy you. He'll do to you what he did to higher shipping. What is the demon's name that the father of Carlotta? The way he'll actually do that to you. Get the pretensions of self out of you. Like all this violence in you. This violence that it's in you. What made you that way? Who taught you to think like that? Who taught you to talk like that? Like, who taught you to talk like that? It's just sad that people have had that happen to them. You know, and my hope is that I can get people to see the error of their ways and realize what they've done wrong. Become humbler than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, and to give respect unto others without getting anything in return. I don't want to see people be destroyed by their own foolishness. Because I've been down that road myself, and it's not a pleasant road. It is a terrible road to go down. It is. I mean, I slandered another person years ago, and so I know what it's like to do that kind of thing. So I just don't want to see that happen to anyone else in life. It's not good. Hare Krishna. Like, where is the mic? Where is the